Hello, ma nafx nistgħux nibdew.
Qegħdin nistennew l-aħħar ftit studenti
All
biex
right, no problem. Tisix hemm żewġ pages fuq il-brochure naħa oħra, ta'
eżattiva.
naħseb l-ewwel u iva xorta whatever area you change, it doesn't matter. L-iktar importanti fejn hemm il-courses, il-course content, ta' tista' tagħmilha hemm kważi.
Mela. Okay, I think that we can start. So, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today.
Okay? Yes, this is good, yes.
Today we will be discussing the accountancy, insurance, banking and finance, and economics majors. During our first session, we are going to go through the accountancy major, and the presentation will be presented by Professor Peter J. Baldacchino. Thank you.
Okay. I thank you for inviting me to this seminar or conference, what you're saying, what you are referring to it. I just am here to put your mind at rest for any questions you might have about accountancy. Accountancy has been a very successful course. I remember from since the beginning. It started off in 1978. I got into the department way back 83, a very long time ago. But it has been going from strength to strength. Accountancy, it's not a question of me marketing the course because it's been increasingly getting more popular. We have about 100 a year, or sometimes it fluctuates to 90 or sometimes 80, but round about an average, there are about 90 going on to the masters, moving on from the Bachelor of Commerce. As you know, it was the first masters, professional masters in FEMA, and as you may know, once you get the masters in accountancy, you have the road completely open to the warrant with the right experience, and also because you have the Maltese warrant, you have the door open. Then later on, for any to work anywhere in Europe, if you get also the auditing certificate, because we have an agreement in Europe that people with an auditing certificate across Europe can very easily go to function and to work in other places. In fact, that's the best way to go to other places with a certificate in APCA, practicing certificate in auditing. This is not gained by other exams. All your exams are those in the Master in Accountancy and the BCom earlier on. What you need is experience. Roughly, if you finish off the course and do at least 2 years in auditing, depending what we've done before. But normally, the best people would do 1 year before and then 2 years later in auditing, and you'd get both the warrant and the practicing certificate. That's the shortest cut. But many people go in accounting and then do the auditing certificate later. That's just to tell you where it heads on at the end of the day. But that's very far away for you at the moment. I just wanted to clear up anything that might be impeding you, troubling you at this point. Okay? Just keep in mind that accountancy is not a subject, it's a profession. And therefore, you have not just one specialized area, but you have at least five different areas. I'm talking about the core subjects which you finish off at the very end of the course, which you do normally in year 5, most of them. It is financial accounting and reporting, management accounting, taxation, auditing, and financial management. I don't know Well, as you have in the soft brochure, I hope they sent it to you. We are just 9 academics. Almost all of us have a PhD in each area. I have been for almost all my teaching life in financial management and auditing, but lately, the last 5 years, I entered a lot into corporate governance. We have all PhD, for example, my PhD has to do with auditing and corporate governance. Josette Caruana, you see her there. She is in financial accounting and reporting, public sector reporting. And Francis De Bono, mostly management accounting, that one. I think there is some sort of error there. Oh, no, it's all right. Justin Kirkhope is just purely financial accounting. We have more people on financial accounting than in other places because it's the most extended subject. Then Josette Caruana on public sector accounting, Franz De Bono on management accounting, Jonathan Dingley as well in financial accounting. Jonathan Dingley, so I'll give you some background of these people. London Elul in management accounting and financial management. Monique, she's in financial accounting. Carmen Said Formosa, she is in taxation mostly, taxation. And Norbert Tabone is in auditing. So we have all the spread of the main subjects in accountancy. Then we have about 50 part-timers helping us. These people that I was mentioning, they all have good backgrounds. Some of them are partners. I think one, Jonathan Dingley, there are a number of partners, but of the full-timers, Jonathan Dingley is a partner in KPMG. But most of them are experts in some areas. Say Josette Caruana is a consultant with government, the public sector. I myself, I am as well the chair of the accountancy board itself, the regulator itself, and a director for many years, a director at the center. It was my first job, and I've been a consultant since way back in '75. So most of them have, Lauren Elul was also in the DMFSA. At the moment, she's somewhere else in the public sector as well, helping. Carmen Said Formosa, a specialist in tax. I think she was one of the very few in Malta with a PhD in taxation. Norbert Tabone is a financial controller of a big group of companies in St. Julian's, okay, it's the Farata group, and he's also teaches in auditing. Evan Grishti is sometimes works as a sole practitioner as well, but mostly he's in financial accounting as well. I think I referred, and Franz De Bono on management accounting. I think I referred, just to give you that we have a specialist in each area of accounting, just to give you our background. We also have two, because it's a big department, we have 2 full-timers, administrative staff, Paula Kutaya, Roman Amalia. You have their number there. If you need anything, you can ask them anything. Okay, if they don't know anything, they can ask me as well. And so far as I know, the course, as I told you, has been going on since 1978. And we're always introducing new things. Could you turn the brochure the other way around, please? Here's that one. What is interesting about the Masters in Accounting and the Bachelor's which comes before it is that not all accountants finish off doing the same things. But there are some areas which are electives, okay? Here you have a list of the main subjects here from year 1 to year 5. You see, for example, financial accounting is in each and every year, auditing from year 3 onwards, financial management from year 3 onwards. Well, I'll talk about the electives, but then taxation is year 3 and year 5, dissertation in year 5, a number of other study units, which we have solid help as well from the other departments of the faculty, mostly, okay? But also some of them we teach ourselves. Say ethics and corporate governance, half of it I teach myself. The ethics part is taught by someone from the Faculty of Theology. Research issues taught by someone else in the faculty. Contemporary issues is just an updating course at the end. Risk management which is also becoming more important. We have that as well, and corporate and corporate financial services. There's faculty of law teaching is there. We will go do the same materials in the faculty of law. And we also have other subjects. People might take them and they might not. Okay. Things. First of all, when you move on later on to masters, you have a number of electives. You choose one. So you could go into this is beyond the CPA. You do even material which is not required by the CPA, just to make you more liable that you can go abroad to study. Like a good number of our graduates have gone to Luxembourg or Brussels to work there as well. So here I have international tax, financial instruments, especially for those more maths related and investment related, financial reporting for small entities. We have Professor Toms from University of Leeds teaching online on that. That's sponsor. Sorry, I'm talking here about forensic accounting because it's not there. We have a subject is what called forensic accounting. It's becoming more and more important, just to do with money laundering and things. We've got an expert, it's subsidized by government, and teaches straight to accountancy students who choose the elective in year 5. Public sector accounting for those more interested in the public sector. And perhaps people can choose also an elective from the MBA. So we usually utilize a lot the facilities we have in the faculty as well to enrich our course all the time. If we find the need from year to year of something new, we introduce it and we change the subject, the content as well from year to year. The dissertations, we publish a good number of them every year. For example, last year's dissertations, I published with the student involved a paper on each dissertation. Those dissertations were with me last year. And we've been doing that for a number of years, so a good chunk of them are published. You could find them on the internet, most of them. Of course, then people might say, where should I specialize and what subject would I take? It all depends on what you do at BCom. Here, I didn't go expand on the courses of BCom, but mainly what you choose now in year 2 is very important, because if you choose, there are the other streams which you could choose from: economics, management, marketing, public policy, banking and finance, insurance. You could have any one of those. And the type of accountant you will be, that if you choose the right stream, the other stream in accounting, that makes you very good to specialize in that area later on, So say in the electives, we have risk. So if you choose an insurance, that could help you, So you could tie up what you do in the masters with what you do in the stream earlier on. So that helps a lot. What is the advantage of doing the course? Over the years, it's become very clear that we are at a good advantage. Why? Because we don't just teach students the CPA subjects required by the European directive, but we go beyond in such a way that our graduates are very much wanted by the industry in particular. Okay, say I work at the central bank, I'm a director at the central bank part-time. This is an executive. If a central bank wants an accountant, would prefer someone who is normally not because he's done a master's, but because with the master's he has done economics as well. And they would like everybody who joins there know a little bit of economics. And with a BCom, besides accounting and economics, that helps, And it goes for many other things. If you go into an insurance company, if you go with a bank, there is the banking and finance elective stream, the insurance stream, So it's good if you can plan, or not necessarily, but if you can plan your career, what you want to do later on. You might be confused. I don't blame you because the choice is so wide, but it could help you later on, And then what could make you specialize besides the CPA, because in itself that's a specialization? You would have another stream in the BCom, and perhaps a parallel dissertation on the same area later on in year 5, and perhaps even the elective in the masters. That would make a very solid person who you're not only an accountant, but as much as one can know, perhaps being an accountant in insurance. And that's really wanted by employers, and that you're not an accountant like the others, but you're an accountant with a big touch of something else, something which no other course does. So that's why we're part of FEMA, or about half of FEMA, we're in big numbers, but FEMA is to our mutual advantage. We help FEMA, the other departments, and they help us. And it's very important. It's important to move on to the masters to gain at least 65% of the marks in the, I think it's from year 2 and year 3 in the core subjects. I'm not sure it's all of them, but definitely all the core subjects, that is the accounting related subjects, you have to have an average of 65%.
Yes,
Otherwise you can't move on. But of course you always have the other elective, the other stream, if you've done 65% at least in that, to move on there. Typically around about 3/4 of people move on to the masters. Anybody who gets eligibility very often moves on. Very rarely people stop at BCom to do something else, because they know that there's a big advantage in showing a master's, an actual master's degree, not an equivalent, but an actual master's degree, and with some specializations. We are in touch a lot with the Malta Institute of Accountants as well, and also me being part of the regulation, because part of the law in Malta tells that one of the academics in the department has to be part of the regulator, and I was chosen to be there for many years, but also elected to be appointed to be the chairman of the board. So we have a good link as well with the warrant giver, which is the accountancy board. But of course, I perhaps I've talked already a bit too much. I would like you to ask anything you want, and I would prefer that to answer whatever you need to ask. Otherwise, I can go on giving you some other details. But if you want to ask anything, just don't be ashamed. Just talk. Just ask me anything. Anybody want to ask anything? If you look at the testimonials, our students, our if you choose majors, management and accounting, then in what area you're specializing with? Of course, you're specializing in management in general. Okay, very often you could do that, take up management and accounting, or you could take up something else. I mean, management, you could specialize at the BCom, that's good level. But typically, the actual specialization of management is the MBA. People, just keep in mind, if you move on and you get the 65% average, you could go for accounting and then choose the other area you would have chosen. In this case, management, you could go for an MBA in it as well. So you could get 2 masters, not necessarily all full-time. The accounting is full-time, yes. But for some of the masters, you could go part-time. But that's a specialization for people who want to move on as a CEO, Chief Executive Officer. Okay? Not typically the best qualification for that is an MBA, because what is an MBA? An MBA is a course which gives you just not a specialization, but a good chunk in the major areas, and therefore, as a manager, you could supervise the accountant, the marketing man, the financial man, and the operational man, primarily. So in the MBA, a good bit of all those 4. That's what management stands mostly on. In our case, it's financial management. Okay, my subject, which I teach, is financial management. But pay attention to the word financial management, because it can be a misnomer. People mean many different things. what we mean by financial management in academics is corporate finance, but it could mean accounting, it could mean taxation, some people, it could have a wider meaning. But yes, in our course, we go in, the accountant is one of the more important persons in a company. Okay, just to give you my background, I was a chief accountant for a number of years in a number of companies as well. And many accountants, they move on from being the chief accountant or the chief executive, financial executive, to management. In fact, some of them do an MBA before they do that jump as well. It's not that because you have a good emphasis on management as well in our course, especially, but if you do management. But all of them are good. All the other electives are good. Depends what you want and where you want to go to work mostly, where you prefer. As I told you, if it's the central bank, for example, it's economics. If it's insurance, there's an insurance. Banking could be banks, you know. Management could be many companies on the management side, those sort of things. I don't know whether I mentioned them all. A public sector as well, you know. Għanna remxem, ċet sora, is compulsory in third year. What is JAYE? Sorry about that. And what would you have? What is that JAYE stands for? Could you tell me?
I think it is the study unit for the young enterprise.
I don't think so. To my knowledge, it's not compulsory unless they change the rules. It's not compulsory, that one. Anyway, it's not a core subject. It's not a core subject. The core subjects are those I mentioned. By year 3, you have a touch of them all. A touch of them all. I don't think it's compulsory, see, that one.
No, that is
I'm not so sure it comes from another department, that one, but
for management.
For management only, you're asking?
No, I'm only letting you know that maybe the student who has asked about it maybe is asking whether it is beneficial to.
It is a good experience, mind you. It's like it's a much elevated item, like what you do in sixth form, where you have this practical way. It's helpful because it puts in practice. Many subjects are all the same. We're doing something of not exactly like it, but near. When we do a case study at the very end of the course, we do a case study where we join 5 subjects or at least 3 of them. And you have, if I understand that, it's entrepreneurship where you found a company on your own, and you have a good experience of managing, of being the director of a company, of being the manager, of being the financial aspect, of being in a team. So if you can go for it, you have the occasion. I wouldn't run away from that because it helps you to integrate many subjects together, in practice as well. And it helps even when you later on in an interview with an employer, But when you put it in mnemonics, I couldn't recognize it. Yes. Any other question you wanted to ask, whatever you wanted? There's still time, very. Just I wanted to tell you as well, as you will know by now, probably people want to go on Erasmus. We pay attention where you go because we have to make sure that the subjects you do are allowable for the warrant. And very few universities mix theory with practice because that's the joy of our course. Very often in many subjects we have the theoretician and the practitioner, and many universities, they stick to the theory only, not just theory and the practice. And therefore, if you look at the content of the course, you might have some objections from the regulator. So we are selective in the universities, and besides that, there are very few universities which satisfy our criteria. I think increasingly we're getting universities from from Poland, like University of Lodz. There was the University of Dundee. I'm not so sure whether it's still on Dundee because of Brexit, but it was on last year. And some people, if they have chosen another university to go there in the second semester, we have to check with us because we have to check with our lecturer of the subject whether that's good or not. Okay. But Erasmus, if you can manage, that's also a very good wide experience, which is only available because you are full-timers. We do believe in full-time education. Part-time might be very attractive. You'd have, I'm sure, professional audit firms running after you to work with them. I think, honestly, I never give advice to work too much in winter. Okay, you have up to 20 hours to work if you want to, but it makes your studies a bit more heavy. There's a small part-time job during the year, not bad, but not working the full 20 hours. But in summer, I would advise you to join them. Okay, to join them from year 2 onwards, at least year 3. The regulator doesn't count year 1 and 2 because very often what they do to you in year 1 and 2, they give you non-accounting related jobs like taking photocopies or those sorts of things. So it starts from year 3. If you go with an audit firm and be from year 3 onwards, you gain 1.5 years. No, sorry, 4 months or 3 months, let's put it 3 months, 9 months for sure, depending how long. If it's 4 months, it's 1 year. So 1 year you could get out of the 3 years I mentioned to get your warrant. 1 year you could get it before by joining them in summer, 4 months, 4 months, and 4 months. That could be good. Besides, of course, coming to know in practice what accounting is all about. Just remove the idea that accounting is just figure crunching. It's not. Okay? It's not. Accounting is one of the more essential items or branches to do management, as I mentioned. Typically, in most companies, you have the financial man, who's the accountant. You have the marketing man on the marketing side, the other side of the picture. You have the human resources section, and you have the operational side. In big companies, you have them all. But one of the more important people is the chief executive. Very often, they are all under the umbrella of the chief executive. Sometimes, the way it is in practice, you have the chief financial officer, you call him CFO, sorry, the chief executive officer, CEO, under him, chief operational officer, and then under him, you have the other 3, you know. But that's how most structures are built up. And sometimes the chief financial officer is very important as well. And whenever there is a good and important appointment by the CEO takes him with him. Sometimes he's number 2 in companies as well. It all depends on the different companies that there is that you're talking about. Okay. The biggest tests have to do at the BCom. Some people, as I said, do not move on to accounting, but then people who move on in masters, very often they make it. It's very rare that they don't. Why? Because they've already by now know that accounting is good for them. So it's a rare occasion when somebody stops in the masters. And it's a shame if you stop at BCom and don't move on, because you have all the criteria to do a good degree, at the same time enjoy life as well and enjoy what you're doing. There is big difference in accounting as well, because we don't just do exams, of course. There's a lot of debates going on, a lot of teamwork, especially in the masters. Okay? Discussions where you give your own presentations. The dissertation, which is very important, you could not find it in other routes. Okay? The dissertation is important, becoming more and more important as time moves by, because the dissertation is your hallmark, what you've done on your part. And it remains permanently in the library of the university. Besides, of course, as I told you before, one could publish it as well. You know? But by the time you move on, especially in year 3, when you do year 3, where you have mostly, you have what you have mostly, besides the other subjects, you'd have financial management, financial accounting, management accounting as well, taxation. You all have them in year 3, those. Well, by that time, you have a taste of all the major subjects. So you know much more what accounting is all about. Because unfortunately, I must say, the A-level accounting doesn't give you the right perspective, an exact perspective what accounting is all about. It has too much emphasis on financial accounting, while financial accounting, while an important subject, is just one out of those 5 or perhaps 6 as well, because you could add as well financial services legislation to the 5 subjects I mentioned. For example, with the course, you don't just have one time in law, but you have so many times, different times, moving on and specializing finally in financial service legislation in year 4. Okay, Companies Act, especially at the accounting side of the Companies Act in year 3, but before you have civil law and commercial law, okay, but company law then in year 3. I don't know whether you want to ask something. I just fill in the time in the meantime, but wanted to ask anything, perhaps you. So it's not a question of which is the best alternative, it's what you really think are best in. For example, if you are inclined towards politics, let's put it this way. Politics in the nearest area, it's not exactly politics, it's public policy. What would be public policy would be very helpful for a future politician who knows as well the accounting side, you know. If you're a good number cruncher, I would go for management accounting because that's mostly what you're doing, the background number cruncher and giving immediate results to the financial controller or to the financial director. If, if you want to be perhaps higher in the hierarchy, first of all, there is financial accounting because financial accounting is something to do as well with externals, not just internal, and therefore the chief executive, financial executive, keeps that for himself. Then, if you want to be more on the consulting side in an industry, there's financial management, where you give advice to the board about whether major projects should be undertaken or not. Okay, taxation is a whole specialization in itself. Okay, you could become a sole practitioner in taxation. You could also go for internal audit. It's becoming more and more important. Myself, my first specialization my first work, 1975, had to do with internal audit at the central bank, and I'm still at internal auditing as a chairman of the audit committee of the central bank. Before I was chair of the audit committee, and elected chair of the audit committee of GO, and I've been involved a lot in what we call audit committees, which are the watchdogs of companies to see that auditing is done independently and done well, both internal and external auditing. You do have a course in auditing starting from year 3, part of the word auditing, but it's in year 3, goes on in year 4. There are 3 semesters in internal auditing as well. Of course, then if you want to specialize in internal auditing, there is no BCom in this area, but you could go for a professional course outside university run by an English institute at the moment. So it all depends what you want. It's good to ask yourself, where would I be happier most doing things, you know? The one who asked me about management, that's in general, okay? Rather than knowing the specialisms in detail, knowing a bit of everything in such a way, as I told you before, that you could control the specialists and not let them run away with the company. But you have a good balance between the marketing man and the financial man and the HR, They have to work together, and their job is to stick them together and do help in company policy. That's management, top management is all about. Okay. Today, the top managers, we call them those involved with corporate governance. There have been a lot, I consult a number of years as well in giving advice on what happens or what should happen between the board and the managers of a company. Okay. My PhD had to do with that as well. Well, anyway, if you wanted to ask anything else, I'm ready to answer anything you wanted to ask. I didn't expect to finish a bit earlier, but if you want to ask, we have all the time available. I think I covered everything. Just a point I mentioned, in each area of dissertations later on, there's a prize given by 16 different sponsors, the National Audit Office, the Multitude of Accountants, the foreign bodies, sometimes the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, and so on. The the um, the audit firms, all the big audit firms, the big four, give two prizes. Some of the other audit firms as well, and all there are 14 prizes. Not just a sum of money, at the moment 600 euros, but also a certificate that you have been done a dissertation in the area of management accounting. You've become top, for example. That's done as well. So there are plenty of opportunities here, and I don't think if you study, there should be no reason why you shouldn't manage. Perhaps, as I told you, people might choose, say, after the year 3 to go to do the ACCA. Myself, I am an ACCA as well, but I come from the times when there was no degree at university. And of course, after the ACCA, I then moved on to MPhil and PhD as well, and the MIA as well, some of my other qualifications. But today, if you have the choice between ACCA and the Masters, I would go for the Masters. First of all, it's full time. You don't have to kill yourself at midnight to study. And secondly, because as I told you, there are many areas which helps you not just for accountancy, but for the job, in your job as well. Like year one is, as you know, lots of other subjects in preparation. As I told you, the other area, specializing, mostly the biggest advantage is you have a chance to specialize. So if you are competing with other people as an employer, both Malta and abroad, you can tell them that you have a specialization in a particular area. You know, if you work it properly. I think that's the biggest advantage that there is. And of course, there are other advantages like being taught law properly, not just, I'm not saying they don't learn company law, but being taught by the members of the faculty of law and taught different topics one by one, that makes it much deeper, I believe. And 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 uh, and there are also some things which not just taxation, not just Maltese law, but where you have the environment of Malta, like for example, being taught towards the end of the course on Maltese cooperatives. In many other courses, you don't have any idea of cooperatives, but you have, you know, so, and of course, you can also get in touch with the whole sea of studies we've done over the years. It's more than 2,300 studies, and you'll be taught to use them while you're going along, and after finishing off, you could easily consult them as well. Hopefully later on, they make them online available, not just for students, but for everybody who has a link with the library. So there is a whole spectrum of studies which are helping you in each particular area. Ma nafx li xi saqsu xi ħaġa oħra, or something else you wanted to ask, and naraw xi ħaġa ċett. Sorry, I didn't just ask a question asked by Natalia, sorry. At the end of the third year, there is no dissertation. The dissertation, not the dissertation. Dissertation is done only in year 5. In year 5 up to now, because there's going to be a change next, not in your course, but in the following years, there might be a change in this for people taking IT. There could be an IT elective as well, an IT stream as well, which I have not yet introduced. Okay, these are the questions. People want to ask anything, you can write them up as well. Okay? You can ask, I'll wait a bit. If you want to ask anything else, I'm ready to answer. Mind you, if something is a problem, you can phone up. Most of both secretaries are very well knowledgeable about the department now. They've been a number of years, and I'm sure they're ready to help you as well. Very busy, but very helpful as well. Both of them, both Paula and Romina as well. Okay? Let me make a checklist to see whether I covered most of the things I wanted to say. I tell you, the opportunities for the experience are many, okay? But don't overdo it, especially when in the masters. Then be careful not to work 20 hours during the semester, because that can make you lose many marks, many hours of study, and therefore marks as well. The progression from BCom to masters, we did it as well, Erasmus as well. How it is divided, you know, year 2 and year 3. You get an idea of the main subjects, introduction to them all. Okay, I think if you have no more questions, we can stop here, Laura.
So,
About the speaker, whether you
given
wanted to add anything.
if there are any more questions, they can either send them here in the chat box, or maybe, but they can
In the
also
chat box, there aren't any. I tried to find.
Okay, so they can also maybe send them to you afterwards, maybe if they have
Yes,
any
of course.
questions.
They just route it to the secretaries, and I will answer everybody.
Okay.
May take some time, but I answer everybody. Okay? Because I'm also a rector's advisor to finance at the university, as part of the audit committee of the university as well. Where they can utilize my expertise, they utilize it as well. I'm also a good expert in governance and cooperatives, cooperatives as well. I like cooperatives as well. Okay, then let's stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Baldacchino,
Thank
for
you. Hope
joining
I've been
us.
useful. Come. Thank you.
So for the insurance majors talk, we'll be using the same link for the meeting, and we will adjourn to 4 p.m. Thank you all for joining us. First half stabilized, so.
Okay. So, welcome. Hi, this is Professor Grima, Simon Grima from the Insurance Department. I'm heading the Insurance Department. With me there is Dr. Spiteri, Jonathan Spiteri, who you have met like me in the first year, I think in 2 of the sessions on insurance and risk management in the first taster, okay, of insurance and risk management. Well, just to give you a little bit of background, the course BCom Insurance degree is, okay, it's about insurance, but insurance is part of risk management. And the course is mainly focused, although it is a BCom in insurance, it's focused on risk management. And insurance is part of the way you can manage your risk, but it's not the only way. And in the course, we will show you how, let's say, how you can do this with insurance, within insurance also, because insurance has many different sectors, and also within risk management itself, with the tools that we have. You can have portfolio management, you can have, let's say, clinical risk management, which is dealing with health. You can have anything else, in fact, architecture risk management today is becoming very important. Like clinical risk management is becoming very, very, very important. So with this course, it doesn't leave you just, to work as many people think, as a clerk within the insurance department of one of the 4 or 5 major insurance firms in Malta. Apart from that, I mean, just so that you know, the insurance firms, or as those that are dealing strictly with insurance, okay, the companies, there are over 78 companies in Malta. And I mean, from a last review that I had, the last figures. So there might be more as we go along. And not all of them are dealing, for example, some of them are dealing just with investments or reinsurance, which is investment on our structured products. Let me take you through the course. Look, if you need to ask me a question, just raise your hand. I mean, if somebody sees the raised hand, you can just ask the question. Just put on the mic and ask the question and I will respond, okay? If you don't want to ask the question now, you can always email me, or else you can ask me at a later stage, or ask Dr. Spiteri at a later stage. We can meet up even at university if need be. So the course has a lot of electives, and that is purposely done for you to be able to choose the path you want, because insurance, as I told you, and risk management are so vast that you can take any aspect of it. Okay, you can go into compliance, you can go into legal, you can go into financial, you can go into actuarial, IT. So we leave it in your hands, okay? But the main core subjects we start off with are personal lines insurance, which refer to the person per se. Personal lines insurance deals with, for example, health insurance, life insurance, pensions, okay? We just brush through them in the first semester, and even in the second semester, they are compulsory. They continue with each other. You will have different lecturers in this course. I think there are 3 lecturers or 2 lecturers. One of them you've met, who is Mr. Andre Farrugia, okay? And the second one in the second semester is Insurance Markets, Practices and Principles, which is a lecture by Nigel Rousey. These are, let's say, mainly insurance-based. They show you the services and practices of insurance, okay? Then we've got Governance, Regulation and Compliance, which deals with regulations in financial services, okay? It deals with, for example, IDD, Insurance Distribution Directive. What's interesting between IDD and MiFID, the Markets in Financial Directive, okay, is that IDD deals with bundled products. So when you're talking about the Insurance Distribution Directive, you're talking about a regulation that goes over investments, alternative investment funds, UCITS, banking. It goes into all aspects, okay? While MiFID, which would be the investment side and banking side, actually the investment side, would just deal with investments per se, while IDD would deal with investments bundled with other products and even investments per se alone. So the thing is, the governance, regulation and compliance is much more detailed in this risk management function, because we even deal with things that are, for example, engineering, dealing with health, which in investments, they don't really deal in those things because they are not linked to the investments. Although when you're doing a structured product, you do have, for example, life insurance included in it. And compliance, obviously, today, these 3 areas are one of the most areas that we need, that the industry in Malta and even abroad need, let's say, employees. we cannot find employees. And I've got a list, and I can send it to anybody, of companies, and I do send it, I post it on our social media. By the way, we have a social media for insurance. Okay, we have LinkedIn and even LinkedIn and Facebook, okay, and even Twitter, where I post regularly vacancies for students, okay, students internships, and even for people who have finalized after their studies. And if you do take an internship, you can even apply. We are the only department that do it, but anybody can apply for 4 ECTSs, okay, for every 50 hours that you do and log as internships with anything. You can work on anything. I mean, it can even be unrelated to the function of insurance or the function of risk management. You can work in any place and you gain experience at the same time and you get paid also. Then we've got sociology of risk. We are dealing in risk management. The main aspect is we're dealing with a society, with the environment. Okay. Now, to have a sustainable society, you need to have 3 things: a balance between the economy, the environment, and the society. So here, what we do is we show how people react, okay, how societies react to different types of risks. Okay, this is an interesting subject also, and it is very, very important. Then you've got electives, from which you've got a very large choice. You can choose any semester, okay, but you need to choose 2 subjects. So it's 8 ECTSs. You've got economics of risk management, which is not, let's say, statistical. Dr. Spiteri is the coordinator of it, okay? It is dealing with the economics of risk management. It is a very interesting subject. Would you like to say something about it, Dr. Spiteri?
Yes. So, hi everyone. I might have mentioned this during the lecture that we had, but basically, economics of risk takes what you learned in economics, but really what it does is it applies it to the actual world that we're living in. Because sometimes economics can be a bit maybe abstract. But what we do here is we take what we've learned and we try to look at it from the perspective of businesses, but also from the perspective of sort of a global perspective. So even from a macro level, what are the macro risks, the macroeconomic risks involved? So the intention is for it to be quite strategic, quite analytical, not mathematical or statistical. It's about thinking. And it's about thinking about, I guess, the intersection between economics and risk in a sort of strategic way. So we'll cover many different topics from a micro level to a more macro level. You don't really need to have a background in economics. So even if you hate economics, don't worry, this is not going to be your typical economics course. It is just there to sort of give you a deeper understanding of the things that you've learned, maybe a better appreciation of them.
Also, Dr. Spiteri, could you give an update on IRM econometrics principles? This is more econometrics and statistics.
Exactly.
For those who enjoy.
So exactly. So if you are then more statistically inclined, then I would say then there's IRM econometric principles, which is essentially taking statistics and a bit of maths and applying it to data. So what we are going to be doing in that is it's an applied course. So I'm not interested in necessarily testing your statistical theoretical knowledge. What we want there is to look at data and to analyze data in a meaningful way. So to derive meaningful conclusions, to use that data it's essentially business intelligence. So get that data and use it for decision making. And we'll learn different techniques and different approaches that we'll use to analyze that data. Again, all with a purpose. all with an aim. It's like very applied. Okay, so we'll have applied sessions where we get real world data from different companies as well, stock prices or whatever, and we'll analyze it and use that information in our decision making.
This would be a good course that in the future you'll find it really helpful when you're doing your dissertation.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing your dissertation. Then there is insurance financial management. This is taught by another person that you've met, Dr. Cortese, Dominic Cortese. It is highly mathematical. So it is somehow a little bit similar to principles of finance in the banking and finance department. If you are taking banking and finance, I would not suggest taking this because it's basically the same concepts. So if you're doing banking and finance as a second major, I would not do this. If you're doing also accounts as a second major, you don't really need to do this. However, this gives you also then the stepping stone to go to the next stage of introduction to actuarial science. This is highly mathematical. So for those who don't like maths or don't understand maths, it is not applied as such. It is using tools like Markov chains and ratios to understand, let's say, to understand the data that you have. Business continuity planning is another very important subject because, let's say, you might have a strategy, you might have a business, but if it does not continue in business, you have nothing, okay? So we all go into business to ensure that it continues in business. And this is an introduction to business continuity, okay? How we plan, how we write a plan, how we decide on what to look at, okay? What risks to look at. Insurance accounting principles is insurance accounting principles. If you are, I'm an accountant myself, so, and I'm even coming from banking and finance and even from insurance and risk management. So insurance, I can assure you that working accounting in banking or in manufacturing, we are fine. It's very easy. When you come to do accounts in insurance, it's totally different. Why? Because you've got reinsurance, you've got different types of contracts, you've got a new subject called IFRS 17, you've got Solvency 2, okay? You've got even IDD. All these things are principles that you have to work with, which are totally different from other aspects. For example, instead of sales, you would have the word premium, okay? And you need to know these terms. So here it will teach you the terminology. The second part will be looking at IFRS 17, okay, which is a new important thing that came in, and Solvency 2. Which is Solvency 2 is the equivalent of Capital Requirement Directive in investments and in banking. But it is a little bit more detailed because it has more to look at. Insurance business development is a type of, let's say, it's giving you in your hands, now you have the knowledge and theory, okay? Come up with a new type of insurance product or service, okay? What you will do is here, the lecturer will present to you how you develop a new product. Today, there is also what we call the product of governance, the structure, how you develop new services and products, okay? There's a regulation for it. And in the end, you'll finish up by designing a new product which you need to present, okay? In the past, there were products like pet insurance, okay, which was presented by one of the students who is working now in pet insurance for a number of years. And she was the person who instigated the starting of, let's say, pet insurance in the industry in Malta, because abroad it existed. And even her dissertation was on pet insurance in the end. So here she developed the concept and idea of her dissertation in the second year. IRM quantitative analytic principles are again similar to insurance financial management and a little bit of IRM econometric principles. So if you're choosing IRM econometric principles, I would not go for IRM quantitative analytic principles. If you're choosing insurance financial management, I would not do IRM quantitative analytic principles, because IRM qualitative analytic principles will take a bit of both and share them within a subject. So it is like you've got the two, but you're doing a lower level of both. You're not going into that much detail, okay? But it is similar to the two to INS 2017 and INS 2090, okay? An abridged version, however. Then there is another exciting part, which is cyber risk and insurtech. Today, I mean, cyber risk, there's even a directive on cyber security, okay? And cyber risk, I mean, we see it in everyday life, okay? We have, lately, I've been receiving also from the post office, fictitiously, a fictitious post office or DHL, telling me to click on a link to pay a certain fee, okay? We heard about the cases of Bank of Valletta and HSBC and other cases abroad of cyber risk. So we have 3 lecturers. One of them is basically, he's even on the board of the Malta Association of Risk Management. He is a student of mine also doing his PhD in cybersecurity, and he is also on the board of the Federation of European Risk Management on cyber risk. InsurTech, obviously, we're showing you the tools that can be used, okay, for insurance, but in technology, and the tools that can be used also for processes that need to be used. And we've also got another third person who is very experienced. I mean, he used to work with me years back, okay? He was a head of department in IT audit, and he is also at the moment a consultant. He is the head and owner of Kite Consultancy, and he is one of the first CHISAs, which is the certified IT audit and risk management, okay, in ISACA. So, I mean, you will get a little bit also on IT audit and IT risk management in this. And it is very, very flowing. It's a very nice subject. I mean, so in year 3, okay, once you move from year 2 to year 3, you've got commercial lines insurance. Now, commercial lines will go into more interesting subjects like motor insurance, marine insurance. Motor insurance is obviously it's known. I mean, everybody thinks that insurance is just about motor insurance, but there are much more. There are professional indemnity, directors and officers liabilities. These are very, very important, especially with directors in firms and officers in firms, and also in the medical scenario, in the medical market, you need to have professional indemnity insurance, okay, and many other places. You've got also marine, which is very important, especially in Malta. You've got travel and all the rest, airline, engineering, architecture. All these architecture, for example, and engineering have become very, very important. Business interruption, for example, is another important aspect today, and all the rest. Those fall under the commercial line, so that you've got it in year 1 and year 2. We split them, like personal lines and the commercial lines, in semester 1 and semester 2, because we are the only department, I think, and banking and finance, us and banking and finance, are the only departments that you can go on an Erasmus whenever you want. So it doesn't matter if you go in the first semester, the second semester, I have made a number, personally, I have made a number of agreements with a number of universities going from Italy to Latvia, to Cyprus, to Luxembourg, to Lithuania, Liechtenstein, Estonia, Romania, Serbia, Kosovo. Some of them are not Erasmus, but they are agreements also. So although maybe when you go to the Erasmus, because of an administration problem or whatever, they don't show them, they are there. I have done them myself, and there is in Poland, Spain, Netherlands. You mention it, and if you think of others, I will try and make the, I will try and add them. There is Scotland also. However, because of Brexit, it's a little bit of a problem in the UK. So I mean, preferably you go to other areas, especially Italy, for example, Università del Sacro Cuore di Milano, or else, for example, Lewis University or Roma La Sapienza. There are many. Okay. IRM research methods. We have realized that many of the students, when they come to do their master's program, they find it very, very difficult to do the proposal, especially during the summer. So here we decided, rather than doing it in the second semester, we do it in the first semester. We will do another one in the master's program, but here we will prepare you so that you are able to decide, you are able to start thinking on preparing a project for your master's dissertation if you go on to the master's. Okay, wherever you go, I mean, you might not decide to do insurance, you might decide to go insurance and risk management as a master's, you might decide to go abroad, you might decide to do a master's, so a DBCom, Bachelor of Commerce honors in banking and finance. This will prepare you. I have a lot of students, I mean, doing banking and finance, and I have a lot of, I mean, I do dissertations, I do supervise dissertations in all areas of this faculty, mainly, I mean, in the most of the areas of this faculty. Apart from the faculty, I also supervise dissertations in criminology, in theology, in health, and even in architecture. And Dr. Spiteri also goes into economics, accounts. I do accounts, economics, public policy. So we are very diversified. I think we are the most department that lecture outside our department and even within other faculties. I have also passed, and even I think Dr. Spiteri, we have passed also to most of the departments ourselves. We have done the subjects like yourself. I have done the honors also. So I know what you're passing through. You've got then enterprise risk management, which is the first touch apart from sociology of risk on risk management. This is not a it's not a mathematical subject, this part, this enterprise risk management. It is very, it's showing you how to address risk management within an enterprise, be it insurance, be it anywhere else, okay? Also, the lecturers are either PhD level or else have a high level of experience in the fields that they are teaching on, okay? And purposely, in some subjects, we have more than one lecturer, because if you find one lecturer boring, you've got another lecturer that you might feel more at ease with. So, and again, you have a backup. If one lecturer cannot make it, the other lecturer can make it, okay? And the good thing about it is most of us, I mean, we know practically we can teach the subjects from A to Z because we have passed through them ourselves. Now, here you've got ample choice, okay, of electives. I would have liked to choose them all. You've got only 3, however, subjects to choose from, okay? You can choose 3 subjects. You've got investments and derivatives. It's a taster of investments and derivative markets, okay? It's the beginning of, and it is literally teaching you portfolio management. It's teaching you what derivatives are all about and how to use them in practice at the level of year 3. And then there is applied emerging technologies and risk management. This is taught by a person who is at the moment in Luxembourg. He works on, let's say, on technology like DLT. This is dealing with with distributed ledger technology, blockchain, in other words, and all the other things. We're talking about cyber security, we're talking about here, we look at smart contracts, we look at currency, cyber currencies, okay? And basically it's looking at the new risk management tools to cater for these new currencies and new types of contracts or type of area, okay? Then there is an introduction to actuarial science. This follows the insurance financial management, okay? If you don't pass insurance financial management, you cannot do this subject, okay? This is highly mathematical. It is just an introduction to actuarial science. So if you are not mathematical oriented, avoid the subject. If you are mathematical oriented and you want to proceed in actuarial science, go for it, because it's a very interesting subject on its own also, okay? This is another area, I mean, it has to be developed further in the University of Malta. At the moment, however, we're just introducing, okay? Then there's another subject, it's a new subject introduced this year, elements of capital modeling and planning for insurers. This has both statistical, mathematical, and a little bit of more analytical thinking. It's the first time we're doing it. It is taught by a person who is an actuary also, okay? So you will have, you know, a link between Solvency II, which is capital management and modeling, and it shows you how to model to ensure that you are solvent within, let's say, the parameters of Solvency II. Applied behavioral risk management, I think Dr. Spiteri can talk to you about this.
Exactly.
You have to put on the mic.
So applied behavioral risk management is, it's essentially, it's all about people. We are, well, we like to think we're clever and we're smart and all of that stuff, but in reality, people make decisions sometimes not based on the best judgment. Sometimes we have our biases. Everyone has their own biases. We have our own quirks and our own weirdness. We hate, some of us hate change, some of us love change, some of us are really risk takers, some of us are really scared of risk. So what applied behavior risk management will do is try to understand essentially what makes people tick. So it's like a combination of risk management and some insights from psychology and behavioral science. It's grown a lot in recent years. I mean, behavior risk management has grown so much to the point where you have massive companies like Munich Re, one of the biggest reinsurers in the world. They have an established department purely on behavior risk management. HSBC International, the same thing. All focusing on people, how people perceive risk. And so then we can come up with products and come up with communications to better cater for those behavioral quirks or weirdness. Okay, so applied, and obviously I think the key word there is applied behavior risk management. It's not going to be a theoretical, you know, it's not going to be a psychology class. It's all about Okay, these are the insights that we know of how can we use this to improve our knowledge of people in terms of how they take risks, how they behave under risk. Okay, so that we can again improve the service that we provide, for example. Okay, it's a very interesting course. There are tons of books that have been written on this subject, and there are tons more that are being written at the moment. And there are a lot of resources from insurers, from risk managers. So this is something that is really at the cutting edge of risk management.
So the next one is principles of takaful insurance. This is also introduced, was introduced about 4 years ago. It is interesting for those people who want to look at Islamic finance and Islamic insurance. Okay, it is not highly developed in Malta, but yes, they are. It's increasing, you know, in the need for having this takaful insurance. Okay, this is lectured by a person who has a number of years experience working in Qatar. So, I mean, if you want to gain that experience, well, go for this. Contracts and company law is what the word is. What they're saying is it's about regulations, okay, within insurance, the regulation of contracts and the regulation of company law. It's even lectured by a lawyer. Portfolio management, it's what it is, portfolio management, okay. It has a little bit to do with investments and derivatives, but it shows you the importance of portfolio management within any company, not only insurance, okay. You can be working at Farsons where you have a portfolio. You can be working anywhere and you have a portfolio. Or you're dealing with you know, an investment firm who is keeping the portfolio management of some other company. Here you will get to know also the different types of investments, like you will have in investments and derivatives. So those people who are interested in investments, okay, the investment part of insurance companies or risk management companies, they should go for investments and derivatives and portfolio management, and maybe have some diversification on behavior risk management also, or else elements of capital modeling. Then there is forensic risk management, which deals also with items like AML, anti-money laundering, prevention of money laundering, and combating of financial terrorism. It looks into IT systems also. You will have a taste of this lecturer also in cybersecurity. So in cyber insurance and insurtech. He is a very good lecturer. I mean, he works in gaming, as a gaming regulator, and at the moment he is residing, also working with the regulator in Luxembourg. Financial planning. Financial planning also goes with portfolio management and investments, but seeing it from the aspect of where you're meeting the client. The client is in front of you and you are giving him advice or giving her advice of how to plan their portfolio. Okay, so it is like financial planning and financial advice, giving advice on many aspects like pension funds, like bundled products, insurance and life insurance put together, funds of funds, AFIMs, usage structured products, or else straight products, I mean into ETFs and all the rest. Okay. So basically here you have to choose 3 subjects of these. Then we also have 4 ECTSs. We have also additional extra subjects, extra units. You can do these in summer, you can do them whenever you like. They are internships, as I told you. You can apply for an internship in year 2 or year 3, okay, and you get 4 ECTSs. you have to find your internships, or else maybe we can help you find them also. And if you log 50 hours on each one and you write what was your experience in 1,500 words, you get a 4 ECTS, okay, for it. You can go in the summer, you can go in year 1, year 2, semester 1, semester 2, whenever you want. Visit to foreign financial services or any other entity, okay? We usually also, like we did when there wasn't COVID, we took people to Allianz in Milan, we took people to Lloyd's in London, we took people to students to Generali. We even took to other different, like the London Stock Exchange, the Milan Stock Exchange, museums, and all the rest. And we even took them to universities, took people to universities. These, you can log them and you get 4 ECTSs for it. At the same time, you get the experience, and for example, you can get some certificates from the places you went to, okay? It doesn't mean that it's all, when you do a visit, it's all, you know, work and no play. I mean, then we allow also that you can go and visit the let's say, the town or village or city that we are in. We couldn't organize them this year because we had problems, you know, because of COVID. Having said that, we still organize some things. We also have online non-life and life insurance simulation games. We had health and captives insurance simulation games. We had the Rotman's European Trading Competition, which I'm still trying to recruit 6 boys and 6 girls. Okay, you need 6 of each. I mean, we need them before the end of this month. Okay, maybe Yasmin can then explain the process. This year, we're not going to go to Lewis University, but we're going to do it online because of COVID. Usually we go to Lewis University, it's free of charge, you will have food, you will have everything. Now this year, instead, we've got the winners, okay, of this competition will get 10,000 euros. And then there are prizes for second and third, okay? And it is very prestigious because the Rotman's European Trading Competition is one of the well-known, okay, competitions in trading and risk management, okay? To give you an idea, they are sponsored by Ferrari, Red Bull, and what's the other one? And Enel, okay? So the sponsors are prestigious, very prestigious. And Lewis University is one of the, I mean, it's a Roman university, it's a top university, a private university, and it's a pity we cannot visit, you know, because being there, you get the experience. So last year we had another game. We did still do a simulation game. We are still going to try and do other simulation games. I've got some agreements with Middle Sea Insurance, and these are over 1 day, so I mean, they won't really take off a lot from your time. And some of them will be in August or in summer. So students, now we're going to the future, what you can do. Students who have successfully completed the BCom, okay, and have a category 2, so 55%, may opt to proceed to an MSc or an MA by research in insurance and risk management, okay? Now, these two give you a key to a type of warrant, European warrant. It's not a warrant, but it is going that way, okay, of the Federation of European Risk Management. The Federation of European Risk Management is certifying certain students or certain people as being certified professional risk managers. In your case, once you do the MSc, okay, we are one of the few universities, okay, we are the first university to be granted exemption from, they call it the REMAP exam. So the REMAP certification, you do not have to do it. But Once you get your MSc, or else once you pass your, before you do the dissertation, once you pass your postgrad diploma, okay, you can apply with the Malta Association of Risk Management, pay 300 euros as a one-time fee, become a member, the membership is 50 euros, okay, per year, and start doing, they've got CPDs, okay? They will prepare CPDs and you will have to attend, I mean, because CPDs are very important for, continuous training is very important for the profession of risk management. After 5 years experience, okay, working in the industry, you are then considered as a professional risk manager. You will be certified professional risk management. You'll be given the certificate before, when you are, after you finish your exams, the MSc, you'll be given the certificate by FERMA. But you will not be considered a professional until you finish the 5 years experience, okay? Which can be logged, let's say, with MARM or with the university itself, okay? Also, we have an agreement with ACII, the Chartered Institute of Insurance. Once you finished the BCom insurance, you can apply for exemptions. Obviously, the last year would not be given to you. I mean, because all these chartered institutes, they will not give you the chartered certificate unless you do. They've got 5 subjects, which are assignments basically, assignment based. You have to do 5 subjects, which you would have already done with us. However, to get this certificate, you need to do those 5 subjects, and then you become a fellow. Once you finish your master's, you become a fellow, a chartered institute, chartered insurer. Okay, so you've got these 2 aspects to look up to. You'll also become, once it's agreed completely, also a certified professional public risk manager also. So you will have that also once you are completed from PRIMO, which is the Public Risk Management Organization. Okay? So these are the agreements that are already done. In the future, we will have more. I mean, it's a race against time to try and get all these, things. Now, the MA in insurance department by research, okay? This can be done part-time over 5 semesters, including summer, or else over 3 semesters full-time. What you will have is a dissertation, which will be very thorough because it's a 60 ACTS dissertation. You will have governance and risk and compliance, advanced enterprise risk management, geopolitical and environmental risk, applied IRM techniques, and reflective practice in risk management. Okay, those will be the subjects. Then we've got an MSc in insurance and risk management, where if you pass the first 30 CTSs, you get a postgrad certificate, and you can stop there. If you get a diploma, if you get another 30, so 60, you can stop at the diploma. If you then do the dissertation, another 30 CTSs, you get the MSc, and you pass, obviously. But you can stop at any stage, okay? And the whole course is over 3 semesters, including summer. Okay, so it's over a year. Now, these are the courses. The first part, 20 CTSs, is all an advance of what you have already done, except advanced insurance practices, where you get to know more about the practices like reinsurance, like claims, like underwriting, okay, like broking. Those would be areas where you touched upon slightly, but you didn't advance in them. Here, in advanced commercial lines and personal lines, we'll go into more detail on pensions and on marine and on the areas like peculiar insurance, business interruption, and engineering insurance. Okay, So we'll go into a little bit more detail on the subjects. And this is over a year. So this will be spread over, and you have more than one lecturer, but the 35 hours, okay, will be spent over a whole 2 semesters, okay? Then semester 1, you've got geopolitical environmental risks, which are the domain of Dr. Spiteri, risk management theory and practice, which is, here you've got a little bit of statistics, okay, in this one. This is my domain, okay. It is applied also. Everything that we do are applied. So we're not looking at mathematics, or we're not looking at things just to say, oh, we know how to do 1 + 1 or 2 + 2. We want to know, if we're doing eGARSH, we want to know why we're doing it and what are the assumptions between that model. If we're doing net present value, why are we doing net present value? What is the meaning of it? What are the assumptions behind it? Okay? Anything you use, even the Greeks, we'll be teaching you the Greeks, we'll be teaching you the Greek letters and what they mean in statistics and why we use them and what are the assumptions behind everything that we do. We'll be looking at value at risk and all the rest. And we'll be showing you how to do it in practice using Excel, which everybody has access to. And we'll leave the Excel sheets open. So if in the future you are working in the environment, okay, you'll be able to do the things using Excel. And then if you want to use MATLAB, Python, and all the rest, SPSS, whatever you want to use, you can use, okay? However, we will give you the tools. I mean, these are all practitioners here. Even you will have a case study, which is a simulation of reality, okay? Applied IRM techniques is research methods, okay? That will be taught by different people. We will show you tools, statistics. We'll show how to use certain tools like SPSS, like, I don't know, state, I think, eViews, I don't know. Whatever you tell us, we will help you, okay? Then there is governance, regulation, and compliance management, increasing on what we had before, okay? Advanced enterprise risk management, this is basically what is mandated by FERMA, Federation of European Risk Management, okay? This is the topic that it is not mathematical, it is not statistical, but it is preparing you to work in any area of risk management. To tell you the truth, the people who have built these books that we are working with are coming from areas like Airbus, like the chief officer of Airbus, chief officer of Deutsche Bank, Allianz, many big companies, okay, around the world, not only in Europe, okay. Then there is psychology of risk. This is the only topic that is coming from management, okay. It builds upon behavior risk management, it builds upon sociology of risk. Then we've got electives. Again, you've got a number of electives. You can only choose 2. So there's corporate finance, risk management and emerging. Oh wait, I went the wrong way. Hold on. Okay. Applied corporate risk management in emerging technologies, which would be IT risk management. Applied alternative risk transfer. This is very interesting also. Managing risk in complex markets, management science and decision making, which is another management subject. It used to be taught by the dean. I don't know if the next time it will be taught by him. And then you've got the dissertation, which is 30 CTSs. Again, here we've got university and technical experiences. So if you decide to go abroad, even you can go on Erasmus if you want during this period. If you go abroad, you can take an extra unit and you get 5 CTSs for let's say, traveling abroad and visiting certain universities or certain companies, okay? We will also, once COVID is over, we will also propose where we can take you to and give you very good rates for that, okay? Because most of it will be sponsored. So we have, at the moment, we have even a PhD. We have 3 candidates, 2 on the way also, so we're going to have hopefully 5. So it's growing. You know, the department is growing. It's become one of the large departments within the faculty. Events, we do seminars, we do conferences, we have links with Malta Association of Risk Management, we have links with Malta Association of Compliance Officers, with internal audits, we have links practically with everybody, even with foreign universities, a number of foreign universities all over the world, those transition countries, non-transition countries. We've got our own journal, we've got our own books and book series. So it's developing. Current foreign visiting lecturers, we've got, I think we've got quite a number, okay, of professors from all over the world, Luxembourg, Latvia, Germany, France, Italy, UK, practically, I mean, Greece, Cyprus, Kosovo, Serbia, Montenegro. As I told you, internships and Erasmus, we've got many. I mean, there are more Erasmus programs and internships than we've got students. As I told you, even for simple games, we have to literally push the faculty and students to join. When this is something that should be very, I mean, in my time, I paid money to go to do the Rotman's trading competition from the Rotman's, Canadian Rotman's trading school, college in business school, sorry, Rotman's business school in Canada. I paid money to go and play this game. And people pay a lot of money to do it, and you're having it free of charge, okay? Thanks to our agreements. Basically, here it's telling you what I told you about ACI and FERMA. Thank you. I mean, do you have any questions? Would you like to ask me anything about the course? Anybody? We've got 2 minutes. We are 5 minutes before time because we started 5 minutes late. My email is, as you know, I mean, you can get it from ASCS, or it's simon.grima@um.edu.mt. Dr. Spiteri is jonathan.v.spiteri@um.edu.mt. If you want to ask us anything, just let us know, okay? So, any questions? No? Thank you, and hope to see you next year.
Thanks. Joining us. It was quite informative, so I think they have enough info to chew on tonight. I hope that the students have found this useful, and if they have any questions, they can either send their queries to you or even forward them to us, and then we'll guide them.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Good. Hi, Robert.
Hello, hello.
See you. Ciao, Robert.
Ciao.
Bye, bye.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. From what I understand, we are talking today to students who finished year 1 and who are contemplating which majors to choose in year 2. Yes, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, okay, all right. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. So I'm Dr. Robert Suban. I'm the head of the Banking and Finance Department at university. And therefore, I'm going to be talking about choosing banking and finance as a major. The first thing that I would like to to say. Obviously, the slides that I'm going to present, I will send them to the person who is coordinating all of this, so these can be forwarded to you. I welcome all questions, so therefore there are two ways how to go about this. Either you ask me questions at the end, or you simply ask me questions. You unmute yourself, you interrupt me, and I answer the questions as we go along. I don't mind any way you want to proceed. The first thing that I would like to say is that for the moment in the faculty, we are the only department which still has what we call an honors year. Therefore, when you choose banking and finance as a major, you can either stop at the end of year 3, okay? In that case, you get your traditional BCom degree, or you can choose to continue in year 4 and do the honors in banking and finance. And therefore, in that case, you will get your degree, which will be BCom honors banking and finance. Obviously, there will also, I will mention, there is also the possibility to do a master's, but that normally is after the 4th year. If you go for the master's that we deliver in the department, which is the master's in banking and finance, obviously some universities now locally and abroad will and might accept you to go for a master's if you still choose banking and finance and stop in year 3, okay? But there are some restrictions when it comes to banking and finance courses if you want to straight away go for a master's after year 3, okay? So let me go a bit through my presentation, okay? I will obviously talk about the type of careers that you can follow once you graduate with our degree, okay? So obviously I will be more focusing on when you go for the full 4 years and do the honors, okay? Because normally the employers prefer the people who go for the full honors rather than stop in year 3, okay? The courses that we offer, okay? A bit the entry requirements, especially, so this I will skip. I will mainly talk about the entry requirements if you want to do the honors year, okay, because there are some conditions from year 3 to continue into year 4, and typically what is this stuff that you are going to learn in this major, okay, and typically what type of students are maybe better suited to pursue this major. So I think the first question that you should ask all yourselves is, do I like finance in general? Okay, do I like banking and do I like finance? And one way how I like to give a taster to students to find out, because this is after all a personal story, is I list here a number of films or series that maybe now, given that it's the holidays, you can try to find them online, or now they are available on some platforms and so on, and try to have a look and see if you are pleased, you are excited, but by what happens in these films and so on. So obviously these are Hollywood type of films, so things are maybe a bit exaggerated and so on, but you will definitely find in these movies some of the aspects, some of the things that we do typically in finance, okay? And most of the time, this is how some people can discover the finance and the banking world and decide whether they like it or not, okay? So, because after all, you don't choose a degree, I mean, some might, and it's not a bad thing after all to choose a degree because I have a better chance of finding a job. But so far in Malta, at least right now, we are fairly blessed. I think that all graduates will more or less all find a job. So there is no problem that some degrees do not lead to jobs. We don't have that problem in Malta. Yes, some jobs will and some degrees will give you access to better paying jobs. And here I have some good news, because finance the finance area still offers some of the highest salaries on the island. So typically the labor force survey, which is a regular exercise which is done by the NSO, National Statistics Office. They do this every 3 months. And one of the things that they ask the respondents is about their wages. And typically the people working in finance are those which have on average the highest wages available. So this is still good news. But I think at the end of the day, besides finding a job and finding one which pays well, at the end of the day, you should first and foremost choose something that you like, okay? Because if what you do you like, when you get up every morning and you need to go to do your job, if it's something that you like, you will be let's put it that way, motivated to go to your place of work, rather than going to a place just because it pays and it gives me a job, okay? Because you don't, your workplace is more or less where you are going to spend 1/3 of your life, for most of us, the biggest part of our day, and therefore better do something that we enjoy rather than something that we hate, okay? So that's why I insist on this, okay? So for example, in my case, I could earn more money if I went into private industry. I did some other stuff, but maybe my prime motivation is not money, and I enjoy what I do as an academic, okay? So, and this is something that you have to discover yourself, yeah? So I have full respect for people who might tell me I can do a job which I don't like so much, but maybe I make more money, and because I like to have a bit more money. I fully respect that opinion, and this is something that is purely personal. So each student is different, you are different from your parents, and so on and so forth. So hopefully you might already have an idea today. Sometimes this is something that we discover as we go along in our life. So maybe when I'm a 20-year-old, I am looking for a job which offers some excitement or a particular aspect. And maybe when I'm 30-year-old, I will be looking for something else, and so on and so forth, okay? So I mentioned the wages, okay? So I think by now, you should be aware that the people who graduate from our degree do not all end up working in banks, okay? So yes, the degree is banking and finance. Banks are still major employers. So banks are still running after our graduates. But nowadays, the type of work that you can do with our degrees extend to a whole universe of investment companies. So these are investment funds. Most of these probably you will not have heard of, okay, because they are fairly small companies, okay, and most of these are foreign owned, and they cater for foreign investors and so on and so forth, and therefore you will not typically find advertisements on the local media, and so on and so forth. But these exist. There are hundreds of those, and therefore these are the major employers of our graduates. So amongst these investment companies, we have hedge funds, mutual funds, the big four. Yeah, so the accountancy firms, they don't just do accounting. Now they have a very big arm, which is advisory. And a lot of this advisory work, once again, is with regards to these investment companies and to the banks, okay? And therefore now they are big employers of our graduates, okay? And there are also a number of consultancy firms which do risk management, which do compliance on behalf of their clients, because sometimes these investment companies are so small that they cannot, let's say, have a regulatory officer full-time, and therefore they will outsource some of these functions, and there are a number of companies which will service these whole companies. Okay, so there are still a lot of job opportunities. I used to organize every year around March an employment event for all my graduates, which consisted of inviting a number of employers, typically around to 30 plus employers, coming to talk a bit about their firm, and then having a one-to-one contact with the students, to talk about job prospects and so on. Obviously, because of the pandemic, these last 2 years, I wasn't able to organize this event because this used to be face-to-face. Okay, I used to do it at the old university. But I still have a lot of employers who typically nowadays send me an email and send me adverts for jobs, which I then normally forward to the students. Okay, so there are plenty of jobs. And yes, we have heard last week about the grey listing of Malta and so on. So this will have some impact, definitely, but I think that there will still be quite a good number of job opportunities because not all firms will disappear. So maybe, yes, it will be tough for a while for Malta to attract new business, but there are hundreds, if not thousands, of existing investment companies which are still going to remain on the island because they have no reason to leave, and therefore we will still need people to service these companies. To give you an idea, before the pandemic, okay, this is why these employers, I used to organize this event because the employers were literally fighting for the graduates, okay, and therefore I said, instead of I group in one event and I get you all together, employers and students, and it was not atypical for some students to get multiple job offers, and therefore they would be able to make a choice. Yeah, since they got more than one offer, they would then choose which ones choose them most. One thing that I didn't mention, and I should have, but I'm going to do it now, is there are a number of regulatory agencies which still employ our graduates. So I'm thinking first about the MFSA. Just to give you an idea, one third of the staff of the MFSA are ex-banking and finance graduates. To give you an idea, we produce in the honors year around 50 students a year, and the department has been established for more than 25 years. So you can imagine that we have more than 1,000 past graduates from banking and finance. The FIU, so the agency responsible for anti-money laundering, has recently beefed up its resources and was also one of the major employers for our graduates. They still go also to the central bank and so on. Okay, and these institutions. So as part of the corporate objectives of the MFSA over the last few years, it was to beef up and increase the amount of staff that they have. So there is still a drive to keep on employing people, and therefore they are still looking for graduates amongst our students. Some eventually sometimes go and work abroad, although now with the pandemic and so on, I think the opportunities are a bit more limited. Typically, the way that I had a number of recruiting agencies who had shortages, especially in the UK, who were at some point coming to Malta to recruit people. Although with Brexit and the pandemic, this has slowed down. And sometimes some people would, instead of doing a master's locally, they would go to the UK and then eventually get some work experience in the UK, right? So the finance career is still open. And as I said, some of the foreign firms which are in Malta might have sometimes branches in other countries, and therefore there is the possibility of moving from the local base, so to speak, to go in other countries. Okay, I was recently, for example, talking with someone who used to be an HSBC employee, and at some point from HSBC he went to Japan to work for HSBC in Japan. Then he went to work for HSBC in Japan. He went to Vietnam, and then he went to a competitor in Vietnam, and more recently he was in Myanmar. Okay, obviously because of the pandemic and so on, he then eventually had to come back. So there are still possibilities for some people who are a bit more adventurous to go eventually and work abroad. One thing that I want to make clear is that for certain, and this is particular to our degree to a certain extent, is that for certain jobs, regulated jobs in the finance world, typically the MFSA, and here I put a link, will tend to list that in order to be eligible to do certain functions, you need to have certain degrees. Okay, And therefore, that makes the banking and finance degree a bit more valuable. So it's not like a warrant. It's not like accountant warrant. Yeah, we still don't have a warrant for banking and finance students, but it's a bit similar to the concept of the warrant. Okay, so to speak. Therefore, if I exaggerate a bit, if I am a graduate in English studies, I cannot go and take the position of a risk manager or of a MLRO, money laundering reporting officer. I need to have certain qualifications. Okay, so therefore keep this in mind, because some of these regulated positions you will need eventually to get our degree in order to have access to these positions. So I'm not saying that only our degree gives access to these positions. Yeah, so if you go on the MFSA website, they will provide a list, but there are some restrictions. Okay, so keep that in mind, and that is to a certain extent to protect and to provide some value into your degree, because you know that for certain positions there will be limited competition to who are the people who can eventually access those type of positions. Okay, so here I explained a bit the process, but I think you are fairly familiar. So you need to choose your majors after year one. Okay, as I said, now there is the possibility to stop in year 3. Okay, but I would say for banking and finance students, traditionally, those who are eligible to go into year 4, they will still continue to go for the honors year. Okay, because it will be a more complete degree. You get around 33% more knowledge, and after all, employers are employing you for knowledge, and therefore you will be a much more valuable employee if you go for the honors year. In order to go from the year 3 to year 4, there is a requirement, which is you need an average in the banking and finance area of 65% when it comes to marks. So it's not everyone who wishes to go to to complete the honors year is eligible. You need to get this minimum 65% average, but if you are eligible, then you will typically go into year 4. Okay, and normally that's why people prefer those who go for the honors year, because given that there is this requirement, and therefore not everyone eventually can go for the honors year, eventually it is a signal that you are a better quality student, because you are able to reach that minimum standard. Okay, and therefore once you complete the year 4, which tends to be a bit more demanding because we know that the students are of better quality, but will make you a much more complete and valuable employee for future employers. Okay, and as I said, once you finish that, we offer a part-time MSc finance course, banking and finance, which you can then do. I think there will be a separate talk sometime this week, whereby Professor Falson, who is the coordinator of the MSc course, will talk a bit more in detail about this course. Okay, but just 2 words. This is normally most of the lecturers are foreigners, so foreign professors who come from top universities, from the UK mainly. We even have one who comes from the USA, who is actually a Maltese, who was one of the first graduates of the Banking and Finance department, who eventually became a finance academic, and he's been now working for now close to 15 years, yes, something like 15 years in the USA. So he's now a professor at the top US university. He's a very good guy in the sense of from an academic point of view. He has published in top journals. He's a reviewer of the Review of Corporate Finance, so kind of a top guy. And we have the privilege to actually have him and some other famous professors coming to teach on our degree. Yeah, so you really get taught. You instead of going to the UK and pay 20,000 sterling, 30,000 sterling to go for in a very good UK university to get a degree, we bring these people over to Malta, and you get it for a much lower fee. While you, given that it's a part-time course, you can still work during the day and come for the lessons in the evening. Yeah, so it's not yet, or at least at the moment, it's not a full-time course. for this MSc Finance. Okay. So entry requirements, I think I will skip. Okay. So what do we learn? Well, here I list a number of topics. So they are banking or finance related. So it's mainly related to the financial market. So you learn about the various financial instruments. How do we price these financial instruments? How do we trade these financial instruments? Why do the price of these instruments go up? Why does it go down? Then there is a big regulatory aspect, okay, which is very important. And most of the jobs are related to this regulatory function, compliance. Yeah, so there are a lot of rules in the finance world, in the banking world, and we need the providers need to follow these rules, and therefore we teach this kind of stuff. We teach why is regulation important, how are firms in the industry regulated, and so on and so forth. So therefore, you can see that basically we teach stuff which is related to all the type of jobs that you will do in the industry, front office type of jobs, back office type of jobs, jobs in banks, jobs in investment companies, jobs in compliance, jobs in trading, in buying and selling, risk management, and so on and so forth. Okay. We have a lot of practical courses. For example, we have one which is related to Thomson Reuters. So this is like a database provider. We teach you how to extract information from this database provider, how to use it, to get information about prices, and so on and so forth. Okay. So in practice, I think the people who do very well and who are more amenable to our degree, given that yes, finance and banking is still a lot of numbers. So people who are good with numbers and therefore have a bit of a mathematical mind tend to find it easier, because there are a number of formulas that we use to price instruments and so on. So therefore, I mean, it's not very hard mathematics, right? So I think people who do A-level do much deeper stuff than what we do in finance. But obviously, being good at mathematics and being comfortable with formulas and numbers tend to make it easier to do the computations part. Then obviously there are essay type of questions and material to read. So obviously most of the material is in English in our profession. So I think being good in English is a strong point. And given that, as I mentioned earlier on, a lot of the firms are foreign firms, your language will be English. Okay. I think being curious is a good trait to have in general, but especially in our industry, because things keep on changing all the time. So you need to keep yourself updated about the development. So cryptocurrencies is something fairly new. 5 years ago, or let's say 10 years ago, yes, Bitcoin was created just after the financial crisis. But for the first few years, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies was something really for not in the mainstream. Okay, so now we talk a lot about these instruments and so on, and therefore it keeps on changing all the time. Okay, you have to learn and be flexible to learn to use specific software. So we do regressions. So I don't know if you have had the talk in economics, but we do the same type of stuff, e-views and similar softwares. Again, sometimes these can sound very sophisticated because also there are a lot of technical words that you as a student normally are not familiar with. But once you get a bit the hang of using this software, basically the software does everything. So you just need to know which buttons to press, and the software does everything on its own. Okay. But you will need basically to use these instruments. I mentioned earlier on Thomson Reuters. So all of this will be taught and so on. And obviously, here I am anticipating after you graduate, given that the rules keep on changing, you will need to keep yourself updated, because maybe the rule that we taught you in year 2 or year 3, by the time that you graduate, will have been updated, amended, and therefore will have changed a bit. Okay, so therefore, I think that's what also makes maybe the profession a bit exciting, is that it will keep on changing, and I can guarantee you that the finance that you will be doing in 10 years, 20 or 30 years time, maybe even 40, because you are fairly young, and when you will start your career, you will probably retire in 40 years time. It will be completely different from what you are going to do right at the start after graduating. So I have no doubt about that. Some links, okay, for you to have a look at, okay, but I think I mentioned most of the stuff, okay, and any questions? No questions? So I'd rather I either have been very convincing, or I was so clear that there are no questions. I always suspect that there are some questions, but maybe people are a bit shy to ask.
I think they can also send them within the chat box if they wish.
Okay, well, if there are no questions, anyway, if there are questions, they can always send them to you, and then you forward to me.
Yes.
I mean, we gave them the opportunity, so I'll forward the slides, and
we will then upload them on the respective group.
yes.
We have.
Okay. So
if I may.
Yes, sure.
I whilst you were explaining, I had a look at the university website to see what units there will be in second year and third year. And in the second year, which subjects relate mainly to banking and finance? Because some of them are compulsory and some of them are optional. For example, financial services law, I would assume, is banking and finance, right?
Yes. I mean, normally, if they have the code of the study unit starts BKF, that would be banking and finance. All
right. So even accounting for bankers?
Yes, exactly. Right. So basically, whenever you see BKF, it is a banking and finance study unit.
All right, that's clear. That was my question, actually.
Okay, very good.
If I may, accounting for bankers is a compulsory study unit for those who are not combining banking and finance with accounts.
Yes, I mean, sometimes, as you correctly pointed out, thank you, you have to see a bit, because some of the, especially when it comes to the optionals, sometimes some optionals are mandatory, sometimes some optionals are not mandatory, sometimes depending on what is your combination of majors, some optionals are available and some optionals are not available. So there are a bit of rules here, So therefore, I mean, if you need some advice on that, then you can always ask, and we can let you know.
Is there a difference between banking and finance major with economics and the other way around? Economics major and banking and finance, or is it the same thing?
No, it's not the same thing. It's different. Obviously, if you do the honors year, banking and finance is the only department which still offers the honors year. So all the other departments, you stop in year 3 and then you go for a master's. But the two topics are different. The two topics are different. Obviously, if I had to say myself, which is the closest to banking and finance, I would say accounting and maybe economics. Okay. I think if you are an accountant and you intend to become an accountant, I think getting the banking and finance perspective will make you a better accountant, will help you better to understand the accounts and financial statements and so on. Because at the end, if you look at what makes the stock price goes up, it's generating profits, it's having higher sales revenue. Okay, and therefore you will understand why there is a drive for people to do earnings management and so on and so forth. You see, myself, so I have a PhD in finance. Actually, the official name of my degree is PhD in accounting and finance, but it is like that because the department where I did my PhD was called Accounting and Finance Department. But I also did the ACCA as a hobby. So I am a qualified accountant, and I did the ACCA after I did my PhD in finance. And today I understand much better accounts because I have this finance perspective. Okay, so therefore I think it is a good combination. Obviously, you can also combine insurance and banking and finance. Although I noticed that there are some overlap in courses between these two. So I think it all depends, but it is different from economics.
I have a question.
Yes, on the chat. Yes, let me have a look.
What is the difference between elective and optional units, please?
I think it's exactly the same.
Basically, it is the same, just with respect to optional study units. They are much more quite flexible, since you can actually get a study unit which doesn't pertain to FEMA faculty. I mean, there are some of them from the which relates to transportation, if I'm not mistaken, and even physical activity type of study units.
Okay. Anything else?
Sorry,
Yes.
I don't know if it's clear. So we have to choose one major or two majors?
No, two. You have to choose two majors.
All right.
Okay.
So if we go on the particular course, for example, the program description I'm looking at is titled Economics with Banking and Finance. So banking and finance, and then it says the compulsory for year 2, which are BKF.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the economics, which is also has compulsory for year 2, but it's ECN. Obviously, it's
yes, economics. The code will be ECN. Yes, correct.
So which ones do we have to choose exactly? Like, do we have to choose the compulsory we have?
Well, I mean, obviously each major will have its own compulsory courses. So basically these you will have to take, okay? And then for those which are elective, you have to make a choice. So typically, for example, and here I am just inventing because I don't remember all the course programs by heart. But let's say if you have to choose one elective in banking and finance in semester 1, you will typically, for example, have a choice of 3, and it will be choose 1, for example. And you might have the same in economics, okay? And obviously in each and every major, right? But there is a core in both your majors, which is compulsory. So everyone will be doing that. And then you have some flexibility when it comes to the electives.
All right, so for me, if I'm interested in banking and finance and with economics, the 4 compulsory from economics and 2 compulsory from banking and finance are obviously, I mean, I have to choose them, like obviously because they're compulsory, and I have to add more study units to reach the required number.
Yes, exactly. And then there might be a difference between semester 1 and semester 2. So obviously you will have to do this for each and every semester.
All right.
But the idea is that if you have 60 ECTSs in a typical academic year, there will be 30 which will be banking and finance, and 30 the other major. For example, if you go for banking and finance, obviously, if you, I mean, for each major, basically out of the two majors, you will have roughly 30 from each major.
Okay.
All right. And obviously, I didn't talk obviously about Erasmus, but normally there is the possibility to go for Erasmus. Normally, it's done in semester 1, year 2. Okay, but for this, I presume you would have already applied. I mean, we are a bit flexible, so sometimes we have some people going in semester 2. Normally, we don't recommend because given that our academic year tends to start a bit late, then we have problems with clashes with exams. Okay, and then it's a problem to do exams when you go abroad and so on. So basically, semester 1 in Malta, and especially the exam period, will not have finished when your semester 2 abroad will have started. So that's why we tell them it's better to go abroad in semester 1. And normally we tell them to go in year 2, not to go in year 3. Okay, but we tend sometimes to be a bit flexible. Okay, but I presume that those who were interested for Erasmus would already have applied. Okay. Anything else? No? Okay, so I think maybe we can stop. And if there are eventually any other questions, you can go via your moderator, or you can write to me directly, robert.suban@um.edu.mt, and I will come back to you.
Okay, can we start?
Yes, we can start.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so welcome to you all. My name is Professor von Brogdorf, and actually I'm still head of the department, but I won't be for the next academic year. Okay, so let me first of all thank you for attending this meeting. There is Thea Pulicino who wants to be admitted. So, okay, she should have been admitted by now. All right, so yes, we're talking about economics as one of the majors, okay? Now, I'll give you, I mean, you've already covered economics in your first year, and obviously in terms of introductory, micro and macro. In terms of the major, obviously, one is now moving further up the ladder, obviously, in terms of the level itself, and it should actually lead, as things obviously have changed now, or will be actually come into effect from the new academic year. It will lead to Master of Science in Economics. In other words, after year 2 and year 3, and you graduate, obviously, BCom with at least 65, with a pass mark of at least 65 in your economics study units, ECTSs, that will enable you to go further. In other words, you have then a 1 year, very intensive 1 year Master of Science in Economics, replacing what used to be up to this year actually the honors program. So year 4 is no longer available. What we now have is 1 year, intense 1 year of MSc studies. Okay, so after your 4th year, you effectively graduate as Master of Science in Economics, therefore with a master's degree. Of course, this entailed changes in the 4th year, in the obviously not in the 4th year, in the MSc program that is integrating what we used to offer in the honors program, but I will come to that a bit later. In year 2 and year 3, however, we have started a process of review. Okay, Now, this will not affect you in your second year because obviously a review will come into effect the following year, the following academic year. But certainly a review is necessary now to ensure that the units actually converge with what we're offering now, what we're offering in the MSc program that has replaced, as I said, the honors program. Essentially, obviously, year 2 and year 3 will cover the key components, and I will come to this very soon. But there was actually, I want to explain the rationale behind this change first and foremost. In the first instance, the faculty, a number of departments, we are converging in terms of the approach we've taken of eliminating altogether the honors program. So actually what we're doing here in economics is actually converging with other departments, or at least with the majority of departments within the faculty. Secondly, what we notice actually is that we've had a high demand in our honors program, which obviously was quite successful. Even this year, we have 25 students in our honors program. So actually, you might ask, why did you therefore eliminate altogether the honors program when you had a relatively high demand? Well, actually, the problem was actually that when the students were actually deciding to take a master's degree program, the numbers actually were falling. So we had obviously to respond to this actually by the action that we have taken. But as I said, this is actually in line with the changes that have been taken faculty-wide, and there is only one exception, banking and finance, that has retained the honors program. In our case, therefore, we are now falling in line with marketing, with management, and with public policy. So we're actually now, and insurance as well, we're falling in line with other departments. So this was, I think, an inevitable step that we've taken. And we're expecting actually the significant number of students from who have obtained at least 65 plus as a pass mark in their economic study units to enroll in the new MSc programs, which, as I said, however, has embraced or taken a lot parts of the honors program, but actually we have redesigned the program in its entirety to offer something different from the honors program, obviously, but clearly now which is pitched at MSc economics level. So this is actually what we're offering for the those who graduate who major in economics, obviously, at the end of the third year. Now, clearly, obviously, let me just before I proceed with the second and third year and say something about why you should take a major in economics. Now, economics obviously is an important field of science, of study. It is clearly, obviously, well, there's obviously a theory behind economics, but there's also a lot of applied economics as well, which helps any student taking economics to develop analytical skills. And I think this is something which, particularly in economics, we are very proud about, in the sense that more than in other areas, our students actually excel in developing their analytical skills. And this is not just because, you know, they use certain software and like, for instance, Stata or eViews in econometrics, for instance, or, for instance, developing or using cost-benefit analysis to analyze a specific area or project. It's because actually this is their analytical skills are developed, particularly obviously in year 2 and year 3, in the units that they enroll in. Of course, as I said, these analytical skills help the students eventually also in their careers. Okay, so those graduating in economics, working, let's say, in central bank, European Commission, Ministry of Finance, the banking sector, the major accountancy firms, in any role that they have, particularly obviously related in terms of economic analysis, they need these analytical skills. And clearly, obviously, the program itself helps them to develop these skills. Of course, a major component, which is obviously now covered only in the MSc program, is the dissertation, which clearly obviously is of fundamental importance. For instance, in the MSc program, it carries now 30 ECTS, so it's a major component, and it's it's an important instrument for developing also one's analytical skills. As I mentioned, opportunities in this area of economics are various. Practically all our graduates are in employment immediately, actually before they graduate. So clearly, obviously, there is a demand for economists. We've had, in terms of honors numbers, the number of students, we've had relatively high numbers, above 20 for the last 5-6 years. This year, as I mentioned, we had 25. So clearly, there is actually demand. And that obviously demand now will translate itself in the demand for students taking the MSc program in the final year, that is in the fourth year. Okay, so unless you have any questions, I will go into now year 2 and year 3. So if you have general questions you wish to ask, I'm here obviously to react and respond to those questions. Any questions? Okay, if not, we can proceed with year 2 and year 3. Well, of course, year 2, in terms of economics, you obviously can combine it with, let's say, management or marketing or public policy or insurance, obviously. The units covered in year 2 are, of course, building on the introductory micro and introductory macro you've covered in year 1, but of course at a higher level. So now we obviously have intermediate micro and intermediate macro, and importantly, obviously, that there is already a mathematical approach which is already involved in both these units. Now, in terms of mathematics, we do have in semester 2 a unit titled Mathematical Economics. Okay, and you might ask, actually, why is it not in semester 1? Well, actually, we expect that having gone through year 1, and obviously you have mathematics in year 1 and statistics, you are able actually to follow both intermediate micro and intermediate macroeconomics. But of course, you need mathematical economics, and this is why obviously we have this in semester 2 of year 1, in preparation obviously for year 3. Now, in semester 1, we also cover econometrics 1. Of course, econometrics 1 is then followed by econometrics 2 in the 3rd year. And of course, you have then advanced econometrics in the MSc program. But econometrics 1 is actually the foundation for econometrics as a study unit. And you also have tutorials in this specific unit, as in the case of intermediate micro and intermediate macro. You have tutorials there as well. But of course, these two units are extremely important. Okay, they are the core units in terms of studying economics. So you need obviously to do well in these three. And of course, because you need the foundation of econometrics to then proceed with econometrics 2 in year 3. We start off, however, in semester 1 also with public sector economics, which is actually an interesting unit, learning about obviously the role of government in the economy. So clearly, obviously, that is also an important unit. It is less demanding, obviously, than say intermediate micro, okay, or econometrics. But of course, these are particularly, as I said, intermediate micro and intermediate macro and econometrics are core units in the study of economics. Of course, you have the recommended optional units. I won't go into them. I will proceed into semester 2 with our compulsory units. Okay, as I mentioned, there is mathematical economics, which is actually applied mathematics. So clearly, of course, with reference to economics, okay, to the concepts of economics, such as, for instance, elasticity, input-output, and clearly, obviously, again, this provides the basis for further studies in economics in year 3. So, you know, I mean, you might actually think that these are very difficult units. Well, actually, study units. Well, of course, they're not easy, but the pass rate is very high. So, you know, one would expect students to do well in all these units. Okay, but as I said, these are obviously important units. And you really need to prepare for them, both in your assignments and in exams, obviously, to do well. I mean, but they are extremely useful and important study units. In semester 2, there's also, therefore, a continuation in terms of public sector economics. There's public sector economics 2, building, obviously, on public sector economics 1. So again, you have a continuation there in terms of the role of government in the economy. We have elective units offering two elective units in economics, namely Introduction to Political Economy and Economics of Social Policy. Again, social policy covering areas obviously related to social policy and their importance to any economy. There will be obviously reference to the Maltese economy, but this is actually applied practically to any economy in terms of the relative importance of social policy and how it impacts positively to any economy. The Introduction to Political Economy is something obviously which has been offered. We are actually tweaking this particular unit to include also elements of the history of economic thought, which was offered as a 2 ECTS unit in the 4th year in the honors program, which obviously is no longer being offered now. So we are tweaking this, but this is obviously an interesting unit. So in terms of the elective, you'd be actually quite wise to take this specific unit, because it's quite interesting actually, and you can learn a lot from this particular unit. The importance of political economy, and also actually references to the history of economic thought, particularly, for instance, looking at Marx, Keynes, okay, and their importance to the economy, to economic thinking, and how they impacted obviously economic thinking and concepts throughout the ages. Okay, so that is year 2. Now, if we move on to year 3, again, majoring economics. Of course, we build on the econometrics 1. In year 3, we offer econometrics 2 actually in semester 2. So I'll be coming to that. But in semester 1, we have a number, obviously, we have 3 compulsory units. Clearly, we have building up, well, actually we have now monetary economics. So there is now actually monetary economics. The importance, obviously, of monetary economics in a modern economy is of fundamental importance. For instance, the role of the ECB, European Central Bank, and clearly, obviously, there how monetary economics, monetary policy works in practice, but also obviously the theory behind it. So that is obviously an important study unit, as is obviously applied macroeconomics. So now obviously we're looking at an applied approach to macroeconomics. It's quite actually not a straightforward unit, but a very, very important unit, obviously. And building upon the, obviously, the intermediate macro. So clearly there is convergence there with the study unit in year 2, intermediate macro. And international economics, looking obviously at issues like balance of payments, trade, etc., but obviously at a higher level. So international economics, obviously, again, it's an important unit and a compulsory unit in year 3. We offer electives in year 3, and these are obviously the electives that we offer. Now I'm referring here only to ECN units, so the economics of small island states and development economics. These are electives. Obviously, you have the choice to take other study units, which are non-ECN units. That's obviously is up to you. This obviously they give you a broader picture of issues. For instance, the economics of small and island states is related obviously to an economy like ours, which is a small island state with its own specificity. So yes, it might be relevant obviously if you take this particular unit as an elective, obviously. Now going into semester 2 in year 3. As I said, we obviously offer econometrics 2, which is obviously going in econometrics at a more advanced level. And again, preparing you therefore for econometrics in our now master's MSc program. Incidentally, in the MSc program, econometrics covers two semesters. So it has actually 10 ECTS in all. In the master programs, the minimum you can have for one unit is 5 ECTS. So in econometrics, we have 10 ECTS covering advanced econometrics. I would say actually that the first part would be an intermediate econometrics level, but the second part, therefore, you go into advanced econometrics, and that would be actually 10 ECTS in all for econometrics in your MSc program. The econometrics 2, as I said, is a higher level, obviously, compared to econometrics 1. Again, you have tutorials there, so these are very helpful in understanding this unit. So you have actually hands-on sessions there, as in econometrics 1. But of course, this is a core unit, and therefore, obviously, you need to do well in this specific unit. In semester 2, of course, we offer applied micro, which is again following up your intermediate microeconomics in year 2. So clearly, as we have done in applied macro, we have applied micro in semester 2 of year 3. And of course, environmental policy and the economics of environmental policy is important. Again, this prepares you therefore for another unit which we offer in the Master of Science program. So it actually is an introduction to what you'll be covering also in your MSc, if you take MSc in economics. But of course, it's an interesting study unit in itself. And in preparation for whether it's an assignment and also eventually, obviously, your dissertation in your MSc program, we have a unit entitled Economic Research Methods. Again, it's a very hands-on approach. You're given an assignment there, again, sort of in preparation of actually carrying out some research. But actually, this prepares you also for any assignment you may have in any study unit in economics. So it's quite useful. It's a quite useful study unit. In terms of electives in semester 2 of year 3, again, I refer only to ECN units. We offer actually 2. One is economics of innovation, creativity, and knowledge. Again, looking at aspects of innovation, creativity, and how they impact, obviously, the economy. And also European Monetary Union, which is, I wouldn't say it's similar to monetary economics, but it obviously it relates to how the monetary union within the euro area functions. Okay, so it's very specific to the euro area, and obviously in that context, how monetary union functions. Okay, so that actually covers year 2 and year 3. Now, if you have some questions, please let me know. I will refer, however, to our Master of Science program. I've not uploaded it here, but actually, as you can imagine, and I've already referred to this, econometrics is a key component covering 10 ECTS, as are advanced micro and advanced macro. And they obviously have 5 units each, but there are obviously other aspects being covered. We cover aspects like, for instance, demography, health economics. We also cover aspects in terms of environment, okay, experimental economics. Of course, there is actually, however, a unit, and this is obviously the unit you start off immediately, which is actually applied mathematics for micro and macro economics. Okay, so actually this is an extension of the mathematical economics I referred to in the second semester of year 2, but obviously now it's bridged for your Master of Science program. As I said, the MSc program is intense. It's, by the way, it is a full-time program, so it's covering 1 year, okay? But again, if you go abroad, obviously, the MSc is generally covered in a 1-year program, full-time and very intense. So it's nothing extraordinary. Of course, it's quite demanding, but clearly the advantage is that you can obviously then graduate as an MSc student after 4 years of study. So you have obviously year 1, which you have done, year 2 and year 2 and year 3, which I've covered in terms of the units that we offer. And of course, the Master of Science program, which is done in 1 year, full-time, intense, but it is manageable. So that obviously means, therefore, you can graduate after 4 years MSc in economics. And as I said, I'm expecting about 27 students to actually apply for MSc this year from the present group of year 3. Okay. As I said, however, we have retained the requirement of passing in your economics unit at least obtaining 65 plus, right? So the minimum mark, is 65. So if you obtain 65 in your economic study units in year 3, where in the final pass mark for your economic study units, not just year 3, then obviously you are eligible to proceed for your MSc in economics. Now we do this because obviously we have maintained this threshold, because clearly there is we are quite demanding in terms of ensuring that those students who actually proceed who have proceeded for the honors, and now obviously the honors will no longer be available, but will eventually now proceed to the MSc program. They're obviously our top students. So clearly there is a reason for this, and we as I said, we set this threshold to ensure that actually the students, it's not a question of coping with the rigors of the MSc program, but clearly also because obviously this is important also for the students themselves in following economics and therefore eventually working as economists in anywhere they wish to work. So that is as regards Master of Science in Economics. So if you have any questions as regards year 2 and year 3, now is your chance. No questions? Everything is clear? May I know how many students there are?
At one point we were at
I
23.
can't hear you, I'm afraid.
At the moment, at one point we were at 23.
Excuse me?
At one point we were at 23.
23, okay. All right, but the total number of year 1 is
Yes.
much higher than that.
In fact, these numbers were low for all the talks which were held.
Because obviously, I mean, the idea of these meetings is for them obviously to
Exactly.
to
However,
understand.
However, due to the COVID, I think there is something which is lacking. So we really don't know.
Sorry.
There is something lacking due to COVID.
Well, I won't accept that.
And we cannot identify
I mean,
what's happening.
Yeah, but I still won't accept it. Let me tell you why. I mean, I meet on a regular basis with economists in Brussels. Okay, now we haven't been attending physically in Brussels, even though now actually we're starting to attend. I have not, but after the summer I shall be attending. But we have met regularly via, online. Okay, and the meetings have gone on. I mean, so there is actually absolutely no excuse. Secondly, myself as head of department have held meetings now, all right, and actually have a meeting on the 12th.
Yes, for the master program.
On campus, okay, on campus. So I think we can all go to parties and all that, but we have to draw a line somewhere. I mean, of course, health is first and foremost, but clearly things now have radically improved, and
Yes.
Given the precautions, I think we have to make we have to be brave enough and revert, if not totally, but at least we should all
Yes.
make an effort. And I'm disappointed. Obviously, I'm thankful to those who are here, even though I can't see their faces because their screens are there is actually a question here, I believe, or not. Okay, there are some questions actually. Okay, someone asked, I am currently sharing also my Spotify.
It was myself.
All right, because I don't subscribe to Spotify. Okay, so I have to confess I am what is known as an audiophile. Okay, somebody who's fixated with music and
Yes.
and sound, particular sound. Okay, and Spotify is not it would not what would not be my I subscribe to a Norwegian high resolution streaming service, which is far advanced, far more better than Spotify. Anyway, but let me see the questions. Can you explain the difference between mathematics? Well, actually, the difference between mathematics, economics, and econometrics. Actually, econometrics, as such, is more a technique which builds upon the theory of mathematics. Or the theory is mathematical based, but clearly, in terms of the study unit, it's more applied. It's a more applied approach. Obviously, you need to understand the basic theory. Okay. Whereas mathematical economics is more intended for, let's say, applied micro. Okay. So it's intended actually to develop the techniques to help you actually to understand and apply it for, let's say, intermediate or advanced microeconomics. Okay, so that is essentially mathematical economics. So clearly there, mathematical economics, you look at calculus, input-output modeling, that sort of thing. Econometrics actually is going through the technique of econometrics, in other words, building an economic model, and clearly, therefore, running that model via software, of course, and therefore carrying out the relative tests, for instance, stationarity tests, etc., to enable, obviously, to determine whether that model can be used actually for, let's say, to enable to interpret the elasticities of that model in terms of the coefficients, but also actually to enable you and also perhaps to use that model for prediction purposes. So there is actually a distinction there between mathematical economics and econometrics. So that's the first question. Could you give a bit more detail about job opportunities and range of jobs? Well, actually, as I mentioned, we have one of the things I complain, I've always complained as head of the department and as an outgoing head of the department, is that especially the honor students actually start working at least part-time, you know, as soon as they finish year 3, and even in year partly also in year 3, they've already been approached by, let's say, the central bank or the major accountancy firms, etc., to work on a part-time basis. But the job opportunities are various. I mean, we have economists. I'm a governor on the Motor Financial Services Authority. We have economists there carrying out research. Okay, so specific, obviously, the financial services sector, and they're obviously specializing in that sector. There are economists in the multi-enterprise. There are economists in the Ministry of Finance, in the Economic Planning Division. Okay, carrying out important work. There are economists, obviously, at the central bank. Okay. And a number of them actually go regularly to the, they should be actually now restarting, resuming their visits to the ECB, but they obviously meet online. They have met online during the pandemic, obviously. A number of them carry out research, obviously, important research in the field of economics, particularly, obviously, with reference to the Maltese economy, as expected, obviously, from the Central Bank of Malta. We have economists, as I said, in the major accountancy firms. Sometimes I work with them, for instance, in carrying out cost-benefit analysis of major projects. Okay, for instance, one of the major projects was a cost-benefit or an impact assessment, an economic impact assessment of an aviation master plan for the airport in Malta. I work with, for instance, economists in a major accountancy firm as the lead economist. So clearly, there are various. Of course, there are opportunities with the European Commission as well. Okay, I know of individuals who graduated, obviously, from the department, who work now with the European Commission. Okay, in the GECFIN. Sometimes I actually meet them because I am rapporteur on a number of opinions, economic-related opinions, for the Economic Social Committee, so Economic and Social Committee, and of course I have to meet with officials from the Commission, particularly from DG ECFIN, the Economic Directorate General. So, I mean, the opportunities are so varied, and as I said, one thing obviously we are proud of is the fact that a number of economists have, are employed obviously in important jobs, as well as teaching jobs as well. Okay, so there are teaching opportunities as well. Not, I mean, they're quite restricted in a sense, but clearly, obviously, the opportunities lie more in terms of central bank, the banking sector, the major accountancy firms, consultancy firms, of course, etc. So there is actually a consultancy, more than one consultancy firm that employs economists to carry out economic analysis and the like. So clearly, obviously, the opportunities exist, and they do exist. Okay, further questions? Okay, another question. No, I mean, there's a question now related to micro and macro. Of course, I mean, when you're carrying out economic research, it may involve both microeconomics and macroeconomics, depending obviously on the research that you are carrying out. I am an applied economist, and obviously I carry out in the research papers that I conduct. Invariably, I use obviously econometrics, which is actually looking at a particular issue, okay, but has or could have or could be actually related to both microeconomics and macroeconomics. So, but it depends on what you're actually researching or analyzing. So clearly, both could be actually applied depending on what you're actually researching. Okay, so it could be either micro or a mix actually of micro and macro. Actually, for instance, if you're carrying out cost benefits, it's a microeconomic approach because you're actually focusing on a specific area or a specific project with a specific impacts. Okay. Whereas, for instance, if you're carrying out an economic impact assessment, there you're applying more a macroeconomic approach. Okay. In other words, looking at a wider economic approach or wider economic impact of that, for instance, that specific project. So it depends on the case.
Sir. Sir,
further questions?
can I ask a question? Hello.
Okay. I can't see any further questions.
Dr. Proctor, there is someone who is who has unmuted to ask a question.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't.
The 65%. Okay. For the MSc, the 65% pass mark, is it in all economic subjects or is it an average?
No, it's in all economic study units. Okay.
Including year one.
Yes.
I don't think that the 65% actually includes the first year.
No, it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't.
The first year is only considered for the average.
Exactly. Yes. But there is a weighting. I think. I think there's a weighting. Year one has a weighting.
Yes. However, only for the average, for the mark whether you are eligible to go into another program or master's program. You need the 65% average in any obviously in the major which you are
Yes, yes,
intending to
in
proceed.
economic study units, exactly. So obviously you need to do well, especially obviously second and third year, you need to do well in economics, okay? So, I mean, you need obviously, apart from the third year, year 2 obviously forms the foundation for year 3. So even if you did not do well in, let's say, in year 1, you still can actually catch up in year 2 and obviously then year 3. Okay, I hope that answers your question, Adrian.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, any further questions before we close? Okay. So if there aren't any further questions, I think we can
Yes, we can close off
close off. All right.
meeting. Thank
All
you,
right then.
Dr. Bogdar.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.